So you're saying there's a chance? Oh, is there a chance? Leicester City. This is probably going to be the most positive clip you'll see from anyone who leans slightly more towards Leicester, because everyone should be leaning towards Leicester after what happened last season. Because they lost, but were still taking a huge amount of positives from this. This could have been so much worse for Leicester. This is a team that's been getting battered in the Premier League, just a point above the relegation zone, really struggling, Ranieri's team, to keep any sort of consistency in the Premier League. But then when they come into the big stage, when they're completely underestimated, when they only have 2 shots on goal throughout the game, and they're still in with a chance, in a pretty decent position. Merely 1 measly goal is all they need at home. And don't concede any, which is easier said than done against Sevilla, who are... I'm not using this clip as a means to diminish Sevilla. They got the victory. They're in pole position. They're the favourites. But when you break it down, that Leicester City, the team that won the Premier League last season, that has still a huge core, a huge core of that team still there, 1 goal is all you need to go through to the next stage, to make history again. Continue to make history for Leicester City. Who's going to bet against them? Who is going to bet against them? Because Sevilla were by far and away the better team. But Leicester showed that heart. They kept things solid enough to keep the game within touching distance. And then Danny Drinkwater doing something that I've not seen him do, losing my words here, all throughout the season. Burst in behind, make a hard-to-track midfield run that he did so many times last season, because N'Golo Kante was behind him and he knew that he was going to protect him, his back four, if he was to venture forward. Danny Drinkwater was phenomenal last season. He hasn't reached that potential. He hasn't reached that same standard by a long shot. But he bombarded forward, got into position, caused a problem for Sevilla. Used to picking up the wide men. They didn't know what to do, and a midfield runner can spring in right through the middle, peeled off to the left, drilled it across goal. And then Jamie fucking Vardy, the party starter. He hasn't been having a party for the last 9 games because he's been on a goal drought, and he was pretty silent throughout the game. Sevilla kept him at bay, no problem. He hasn't posed anywhere near the same threat this year as what he did last year. The man who would often peel off of his runners, cause a problem, or even cause a distraction, allowing for Riyad Mahrez at times to kind of take the plaudits. He was always someone to watch last year, but Jamie Vardy has become far too easily marked this year. That's my biggest criticism of Vardy. Not that he hasn't scored the same amount of goals or been as prolific, but simply put, he's too easy to mark. And Sevilla had a problem today marking him in the latter stages of the game. With 17 minutes remaining, they fire themselves into the equation. 2-0, I think that's too much of a task. I've seen crazier things done, such as Leicester City winning the Premier League, so I've seen the craziest thing done in any sport, so quite frankly, I'm numb now to surprises. And I think most people should be after seeing what Leicester could do. And that's probably what's going to play on the mind of Sevilla, players, fans, coaches. This is a team that they did the impossible last year. They did the undefinable, whatever you want to call it. They did it last year, turning things around from relegation. So if you're going to ask me, do I think they can do it? You bet your ass they can do it. And I think there's one point that the BBC were mentioning here. It wasn't a great performance, but it was a heartfelt performance from Leicester towards the end. Sevilla, as I mentioned, were the better team. They got ahead, and they managed to get themselves 2-0 up. They had 70% of the possession as expected. But is this a turning point for Leicester? Could we see that, I say that a loss in the Champions League first round, but a very respectable loss, could be the turning point? I mentioned this on the clip when we talked about Leicester. Jason and I were on the clip, and I said the Champions League could work both ways for Leicester. If they win somehow and emerge victorious, that could perhaps turn things around in the season. And if they lose, it could still work for them because they could focus everything just on surviving the Premier League. So whatever way this tie goes, they can still use it as a means to springboard forward and focus back on the Premier League. But, I mean, they've had dire domestic form at the moment. 14 games already lost this season, including their last 5 before this game, and the exit in the FA Cup. So they were not in a good position. But Ranieri's men, positive display, not embarrassing, definitely within with a shout, and they definitely have a chance to go through to the next round of the Champions League. Just remarkable. And then to quickly mention, as I've said before, can't focus all my attention on both games. I was drawn to Leicester. I'm always drawn to watch Leicester, see how they do. But Porto held things at bay. 10 men Porto against Juventus for as long as they could. And in the second half, an onslaught. Xhaka and Dani Alves, 72 and 74. Really, I think, just sticking a knife right into Porto's chances. I mean, to go down to 10 men after 27 minutes, 2 yellows early on for Telles, and then, or however you want to pronounce it, and then to concede 2 goals away at home. That tie is all but done. Going back, Juventus at home, Inter in, having to score 3 goals, it's a tall order. And I think Juventus could definitely be going through to the next round. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Are Leicester still in with a chance? Twitter, Francis_Maxwell. Instagram, Francis M. Maxwell. And I'll catch you guys soon.